Hello, and welcome to FRL, everyone's favorite wrestling show. Very special Thursday edition. CP's running late, so we got Bray to fill in. No CP today. No CP all of next week. He will be out in the mountains doing mountain stuff.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson on his mountain man.
Mountaineering.
I'm joined by David Bray, Ben Akren via satellite. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing well today. Except for some high school talk, we don't really do too much high school talk. So Bray's gonna fill us in. It's great.
Yeah, Bray's gonna tell us everything we need to know. You're gonna tell us how all your guys are doing. Speaking of your guys, Mitchell Messenbrink was just on Bader's show.
I just listened to it last night.
Mitchell, he is maybe one of the most obsessed wrestlers I've ever listened to. It's kind of like, it made me think about when you talk about, like in the film we did with you years ago, like just how obsessed you are, constantly thinking about it. And, you got the guys wrestling in your head. He seems to be on that level of obsessed.
Yeah, he seems to really love it. And that's kind of our goal, right, is to create a situation where the kids love it. And when they love it, they're going to do the necessary things to make themselves be really, really good at it.
Bader asked him like how often he thinks about wrestling, and he's like pretty much all the time. And then of course Bader, he's a professional, so he's gonna ask a follow-up question, and he's like, well, what things do you think about when you're thinking about wrestling? And the first thing Mitchell said was crushing the people I want to crush.
That's funny.
That's how often do you guys talk about that at AWA?
I don't think we talk very frequently about the people he wants to crush. almost never.
That's an amazing thing to hear.
Funny, yeah, that was funny. I chuckled when I heard that.
A few nuggets to get into before we kind of get into the high school talk. Nick Suriano back in the news, back on the move. It appears he's wrestling back out in Arizona now at Sunkist. Kind of interesting.
I thought you guys did like my wife actually was sitting next to me when I clicked on that piece of content, and she's like, this seems like a TMZ piece.
TMZ-esque, I guess. That was done by our sweet prince Connor Petros. Video extraordinaire. A few social media posts about Suriano came out from the Sunkist Wrestling Club in Tempe. It's always fun to
were you
keep
guys
tabs on Suriano.
I guess I wasn't under the impression that Nick Suriano was going to stay at one place very long, because he never has. Were you guys under that
probably
impression?
Never will.
Well, I
probably never will.
I don't know that I necessarily thought he was going to stay in Michigan for a long time, but I do think that we had talked to him in an interview at maybe World Cup or something, and I got the impression that like he was going to be there for, I don't know, for a while, or that there was kind of an announcement around him going or returning to Cliff Keen Wrestling Club. So I was like, all right, well, he'll be there for a little bit, but I don't know.
At least a couple weeks.
But you're right. I mean, nothing is too surprising. I did think that, I don't know, one of the interesting things in that little video that Connor made is that he's had experience working with Mark Perry. Mark Perry's also had experience coaching and being really familiar with Thomas Gilman, and who knows, maybe that's something that Suriano sees as an advantage, but very interesting.
And one Spencer Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As well.
You know what's wild is after all these years, like, you've heard other people be interviewed, and you could probably kind of sometimes guess what they're thinking. Like, you guys don't know what he's thinking. I have no idea. Like, what's Nick Suriano thinking? Don't know.
That's why we literally did a film on it entitled it Man of Mystery.
Yeah.
He truly is a man of mystery. One of the most fun people to kind of follow in the sport, and a lot of it is because there is that mystique around him and that lure of not really knowing what he's thinking, not getting a whole lot of insight. I just want him to come back to the content game. He used to be quite the Instagram follow.
Oh my God! I remember that one day we looked through all of them, and it was preposterous.
I gotta follow Fast Twitch now for all my good Instagram.
Oh God,
content.
Someone sent me that last night, and I was dying laughing. And then the comments were brutal. Oh my goodness.
He took that bag out.
Sometimes you got to take a back out. Suriano will be
Oh
at
my
the
gosh.
Deglain in France, not this weekend, but next weekend, competing. So we'll get to see him there, along with quite a few other pretty big names from USA Wrestling. Vincenzo,
Yep, good group going there.
Jaden's going, Pentaleo, DeSanto, Lugo. Kennedy Blades will be back in action too.
Right.
Yeah.
So that'll be good.
And then we got I know Mitchell's planning on going. We got Cerro Pilado in February. So that's always a fun one. And you don't have a super deep international field, but you always got some good Cubans and maybe one or two other countries.
Yeah, the Cerro Pilado's kind of fallen off a little bit, kind of with the decline of Cuba. But yeah, hopefully you can get at least a good couple matches.
Yeah, Cuba used to be so tough, and now maybe not so much anymore.
You know, the resources probably aren't there as much.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I think Bray put this in the doc. SDSU, they're getting jacked up in a new facility.
Yeah, that facility looks awesome. Did you guys see this?
I did not see that. No.
4 full mats.
Oh, there we go.
And they started working out there yesterday apparently. So
Wow, it does look nice, huh?
yeah.
I know this has been in the works for quite some time. I'm sure it is quite the relief from Coach Han. He did a lot of fundraising to get this built, and it is. I know they're excited about it, and it does look very great.
Yeah, you love seeing upgrades in wrestling and money getting invested in, and if that doesn't get you jacked, JD, I don't know what
They
will.
did need a new facility. I don't know if you had ever been in their wrestling room, but it was
I have not.
very small dungeon, kind of outdated, and they'll have everything they need here in this facility with mats, weights, locker rooms, hangout rooms. So
I like the wall of windows. Not on this side, not on this picture, but
Yeah.
because you can imagine like some of these South Dakota blizzards rolling in, and you could just watch it in practice and just see that. There you go. Look at that. You're gonna watch a blizzard roll in right there.
Well,
baby.
I mean, the other thing there is sometimes I know this is true. Like you were in high school for a while. Is man, the winter you get in there for a morning workout, you don't see any sunlight. It's dark.
Mhm.
You stay at school all day. Not a lot of windows, and then you go to practice and you come out and it's dark again, just for weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
it's a
Terrible.
real bummer.
Yes, we need some sunlight.
Yeah, our high school wrestling room had a little had some windows, but like only at the very top, so you could kind of like it's
Barely
you
See
it.
some light. See
knew
some
the
light.
light did exist. You know the sun did exist, but you didn't really see it very much.
It did exist. We're sure it existed.
Especially in high school because you do not leave that building.
No.
Yes.
It was there. You get there at, if you have morning workout, 6 or 6:30 a.m. If not, even at 8 a.m. You know, in Iowa at least,
Yeah.
it's dark.
Yep.
And then you're
Yeah.
leaving past 5 p.m. It's dark.
Yeah.
I do remember the one thing I remember from high school is we would it was after Christmas we would do morning runs like 2 or 3 times a week or something like that. And so school started at like 7:20 or 7:30. So I think the runs were like I would say 6:15 or somewhere in there, you know. And it was dark. And then right at the very end of the season, you would see the sun coming up before your morning workout. And you're like, all right, we know that's a signal. It's almost over.
It's a good feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Bray, let's get into this high school talk. You are our national high school ranker, so you know the ins and outs probably much better than we do. But first, a topic we talked a little bit about yesterday, Braden Thompson transferring from Illinois to Stillwater, Oklahoma. I wanted to kind of get your take on this and your perspective as you knew actually before pretty much anybody else.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting because the timing of this move ended up being really weird because Braden Thompson was out at Doc B, and then he was disqualified from the tournament, and so a lot of people online assumed like, oh, he got disqualified from this tournament, so he's leaving and he's out, and it's like no, this was the plan before the tournament started. I think they considered this at the beginning of the year, but it wasn't the right move at that time, and this is like very crazy, especially for wrestling fans in Oklahoma. This move is there are a lot of elements. I know you guys. I listened yesterday. You guys touched on that loss they just took to Edmond North. That was kind of unexpected because Stillwater does have these move-ins. There's this national power. I mean, they have now two different number ones. They have Ladarian Lockett on the team, who's like a top 3 guy. Barrick Jordan's number 2.
He's actually from there, though, right?
He's
Or
from
am I
there,
not
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Cale Hughes is from there too, and he's number 1. I mean, they have some really good guys that are from there, but they also have a bunch of move-ins, and so I mean, it's this national level program, and so when Edmond North beat them, it was really big news in Oklahoma, and it was dramatic because the duel was at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame duels that are, for the first year happened in Stillwater, in Gallagher-Iba, and it came down to heavyweight. Stillwater had a 4-point lead going into heavyweight, and Edmond North got a pin. And so
got
it's,
him.
yeah, they got crazy. Place is going nuts. And so there's a lot of drama around it. And then this guy moves in. And so I think probably a lot of Oklahoma fans feel like it's this counter strike of like, oh man, Edmond North won. So Stillwater, what are they going to do? We got to go get a number 1. We got to go get a kid who's number 1 in the country. So it's like, it's high drama in there. And I mean, it's an interesting thing. It's, whether or not it should be allowed to happen. I know you guys talked about that yesterday. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about whether or not it should happen, but it's happening, and it's going to make for a really interesting postseason because they have in Oklahoma state duels and an individual state championship. And so I think on the individual side of things, Stillwater is going to be extremely tough to beat, but on the dual side of things, it's going to be a question still of like, a duel is 14
are they the
matches.
same division as Edmond North? I mean, it's a
Yeah. So they should meet up both at the state duels and at the individual state tournament and the team score. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to follow that throughout. And then you guys talked about it yesterday, but what are they going to do with the lineup between Braden and AJ Haig? It's going to be interesting to see because their weights go from 75 to 90 to 215, and so what'll happen, I don't know. But
yeah. I mean, the weights are, that is one. I think that's a high school plot that is kind of missed this year. As I feel like every state has their own weights, and they're all freaking over the place. And Wisconsin has stayed at normal weights, which then is the USA Wrestling weights. But every time I go to take a peek at the semifinal results from the Ironman or the Power to the Doc B, it feels like they're different weight classes. Yeah, it's like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, last week when the Doc B pre-seeds came out, I was talking with Spay, and we're like, man, how many high school weight classes have there been at like big tournaments this year? And so I just looked at I think like Ironman, Beast of the East, Powerade, Doc B, like make a couple other in-season tournaments, and we counted 35 different weight classes. Like they're
my god,
like you just never know.
It feels like they're all a little bit different.
Yeah, so
makes your job hard.
it does. And Doc B last week was basically like the regular weights plus 3 pounds. So you have some kids that are like a 132 pounder that are like, well, it's 129 this week. I guess I'll just like descend for the week. But then other kids just wrestle their normal weight, and it does get really hard to figure it out.
Bray, do not all states have descent plans? Because Wisconsin's got the descent plan, and I know the NCAA Wrestling has it also, which would make it hard to like fluctuate that much within a week.
I think a lot of states do, but I don't know. I can't answer if every single one does. It's a good question.
Huh.
I'm not sure if all of them do.
Because that would be preventative for people changing weight classes that quickly.
Yeah. Something tells me not every state has a descent plan necessarily. I think they probably all have some kind of rule around it, but I don't know that every single state does. But yeah, I don't know. But as a result, you get guys all over the place. So in Oklahoma, where there's 190, you get guys that normally wrestle 82. You get guys that wrestle 95. It's a little bit hard to sort out sometimes.
Yeah, because Braden Thompson specifically, since that was the person we're talking about, he's been at big 195, 190, 188, 182. He's been all of the weight classes.
That upper half of the weight classes is where all those shakeups happen because in some states it goes from like instead of 152, 160, it's 150, 157. So and then it just it staggers on up. So
Yeah.
anybody from 152 up it has options and can go to like different weight classes all the time. So that's a very simple way that we could, people talk about grow the sport or make it simpler to follow. That's an easy one. Let's just have one set of weight classes. Imagine if NCAA wrestling,
if there was a place to pull a weight class from, though, it would be the upper weights. If you told me,
yes,
actually, we did this for our high school duels this year. They said go from everyone wanted one less upper weight because the people had struggled filling it, so we took one out. We went what 200 then heavyweight maybe or something like that.
Pennsylvania has 13 weights instead of 14,
yes.
and they took one of the upper weights out, and I think it's good. It doesn't feel like you're lacking in
yes.
in depth or opportunities. So I think it's good. I think
You like the 13 plan?
I think 13 is good. I like 13. I've heard people say that you could consider like 13 for duels and 14 for tournaments. I don't know. That's fine too. I just think we need one set of weights. Imagine if like the ACC and the Big Ten had different weight classes and you just had to like figure out what event you were going to. It'd be stupid.
I mean, it's a little different because all those teams end up at the Division I national championship.
Yeah.
Versus all these teams end up at their state championship.
They do.
It is weird. Do you know why? Because 5 years ago, it was pretty much every state had the national weights except Michigan, I think, stuck with them, and maybe one other state or something like that. Why have we seen
Michigan never changed, correct?
Yeah, Michigan never changed. They stuck with, the
strong.
3, 12, 19. Why in the past 2 years have we seen so many states change? Do you know?
Well, there was a national proposal with these new weights. And so I do think we're probably going to see more states shift towards the new ones. It just may take some time.
Are we going to see a national change at any point in the near future?
Well, I thought
the national thing said that I thought they said that the states were kind of free to do their own thing. Did I misunderstand that one?
I think they said they were free to do their own thing, but they also this is their proposed new set, like the 150, 157, that set. That's like the national proposed set of weights. But if you have to opt in, and you're dealing with like 50 different organizations that have 50 different sets of leadership and all that, it's like some people are going to do it, some aren't, and that's what we're stuck with right now.
Get worse before it gets better, you think?
I don't think we're going to have more sets of weight classes, but I think we're going to have more states like shifting and moving. I think it's going to be like this for a while.
Interesting.
Dang. Yeah, I do. I like having states' abilities to pick their own weight classes, but it does make it confusing for all these tournaments. I think 13 is probably the right number, which means one out of the upper weight somewhere.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the lowest being 6? Some people still think there should be 3. Some people say bump it up a pound or 2.
I think, like when I think about high school wrestling, 106 is a really good weight because it's primarily occupied by freshmen and sophomores who a lot of them are that size or smaller.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fine because high school wrestling is a developmental level of the sport. Yes. And it's one where you want young, like growing human beings to have a space where they fit. On international though, like 57 kilos, if that became 59 or, like a kilo or 2 higher, I would have no problem with that because I don't think you have the same type of issue. And it seems like people are generally like getting a little bit bigger. And I don't know how many people would be sad that they didn't get to make 57 kilos anymore. But at the high school level, it's fine that you have weights that are mostly occupied by freshmen and sophomores. That's what the sport is for.
I say don't bump it up because we still have guys. We have a bunch of guys who aren't that size going into their freshman year. They're not 106 pounds, and then at the end it's 109. They're surely not 109.
Yep.
And then the other thing with that weight class is honestly I could see bumping it down a couple pounds because what you have is 106 means 106 and anyone under 106, that's all 90 pounders also. So generally that weight class can get filled. And then sometimes you actually have 113 being unfilled because you have 113 is only 107 through 113 essentially, right? And 106 is 106 and everything down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that'd be it could be okay.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. It's good to get younger guys the development or whatever. But what I do think is interesting is wrestling is basically the only sport, high school sport, that thinks like that. Every other sport basically accepts your underclassmen go participate in JV, or if they're good enough, they make the varsity team. But if not, they go JV or the freshman team for a year or two, and then they get their time on the varsity team. It's just interesting that wrestling is always like, oh, but look at all the people that started out as a freshman at this weight class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I yeah,
People
I mean,
grow.
I think it makes sense. I think because the positions in other sports are, they're
It's not weight based.
they're filled in based on your skill and your ability to play that position,
You can be
and
just as skillful at 106 as you can at
yeah,
170 pounds.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, honestly,
smaller.
a lot of times the little guys are more skillful than the bigger guys. And, part of it is because the little guys wrestle all year round because they're not good at other sports because of their size. But then part of it is just the way the body works. And sometimes at upper weights, there's a lot of things you can't do or shouldn't do. They just don't work the same way at upper weights.
yeah,
I've always just thought that was interesting and like I said, I don't necessarily disagree, but it's just an interesting that wrestling thinks about that way. And I feel like no other sport,
hmm
high school sport, really does.
yeah. One of the things I was thinking about related to high school wrestling, and it kind of, I mean, has to do with, we're talking about these states can pick their weights for the postseason and all that kind of stuff. We have an increasing number of high school athletes who are like basically opting
But
out
yeah,
or
tell
not
me about this.
eligible for the postseason. So the Bishop McCourt program, right? They're ineligible in PA because of like recruiting. Valiant Prep, right? They're
They're
not
not eligible at all,
they're not eligible.
unfortunately.
They don't
Well,
compete in a
they didn't even
postseason.
like try, right? Or they didn't. They were
Well, they
fine
don't even
with.
compete during the, they can't compete during the season.
Right. I
Yeah.
think they would like to, from
They
what I
would like
understand,
to, yes.
they would like to be
Okay.
in national
Okay.
preps. They would like to get, into national preps, but they're not in there right now. So,
Yeah.
you have these programs like Bishop McCourt, you have Valiant Prep, and I've heard, I've had conversations with folks at Bishop McCourt, and then I remember hearing Angel Cejudo on the Bader show talk about like for them, their folk style season, it's over by the time the new year hits. Like it's Valiant Prep,
Yeah.
I think, is over after Super 32 generally, or I know, well, maybe not now that you guys are doing the P&L. But
No, I mean we don't have all of all the high school spring stuff will be freestyle.
so these programs like they shift from folk style training and competition much earlier than the rest of the high school, than the rest of the
Yeah.
nation, right? And so right now, most of the big national high school tournaments have happened for the season. We still have a few more. There's some awesome wrestling happening still in January, but it's really for a lot of these guys shifting into their state season. They're focused on winning their state titles right now. Meanwhile, you've got a few of these programs that are already shifting into freestyle mode, and with a U.S. Open that's going to be in April, that gives them a lot more time to kind of build up and train. And it also reminded me of listening to Mitchell Messenbrink talk about like that's what he gets to do right now, and
Yeah.
he's excited about like building his workouts and thinking about wrestling on the senior level instead of college folk style. So I was curious, Ben, for you, if you were going to create a calendar, a training calendar year round for an elite high school athlete, and it didn't have to depend on a scholastic calendar.
Yeah.
What would that look like? Would you keep these guys in folk style in January and February, or would you get them as much elite competition in October, November, December in folk style and shift early to freestyle?
Yeah. I mean, good question. I think the folk style season and freestyle season in high school are relatively similar. I mean, we got March, April, May, June, July. March, April, May, June, July. Yeah, 5 months. I've had 5 months, and then I cut my fingers wrong. um, 5 months of freestyle essentially. Which is roughly half the year. You're 1 month under half. I think that's kind of fine. It's obviously I think college freestyle seasons are really short, right? Because they don't really start training till April, and then generally they're done in U23s, which is the first weekend in June. So their freestyle seasons are 2 months.
Yeah.
High school, I think we're generally around 5 months. I think that's fine. For us in Wisconsin, And since we're getting better, it is happening more frequently, but just for our very, very best kids not getting enough really good matches because there are some travel restrictions and we don't have the huge Doc B or Ironman or Powerade, those type of things. And I don't even really care what style it is in freestyle or folk style, but just competing against other really, really high level guys. I mean, I said, because there's more kids in Wisconsin, it's starting to happen more frequently, but that would be the thing that I want. I don't really care if it's freestyle or folk style. And I don't know that, and I guess we can just go look at the results in a few months, but I don't think a few of those people switching to freestyle any earlier is that huge of an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's a huge advantage, but I do think it's like, man, if you look at Bishop McCourt in particular, because they do get to compete like in the regular season, but then they don't compete in the postseason. That they got to compete in not only Super 32, but also Ironman, you know, other really good Powerade, other really good in season tournaments. And so
Yeah.
Valiant didn't. That's the tough thing for them, but Bishop McCourt did. And so to me, they got like kind of the best of both worlds. They got multiple tournaments that are harder than a state tournament would be. Even PIAA, which is a really good state tournament.
Yep.
Like they got multiple tournaments that are better than that. And then, you're done at the holidays. You get to like refresh and reset. And it sounds like actually kind of a cool training cycle. I think it would also allow Super 32 to feel less like this thing you're adding on in the preseason. It just shifts your break from like fall, late summer, early fall to like January and that
Yeah.
and not necessarily a break from training, but like from making weight, competing, all that.
Yeah, and that's where I think for us, our kids have state at the end of February. And I mean we'll probably try to get in only one competition before the UWW U17s for our very best kid, for the kids who we want really challenging at that tournament. We'll probably try to have them wrestle one time. So, they'll go 2 months with one weigh-in prior to that. And that's a nice, place to train at. So yeah, I think we get a little bit of that. And then obviously we take off after Fargo. A lot of our guys wrestle Super 32, but they don't do a ton of other fall stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hey, so why do you I saw on the doc, it says all these guys are either injured or inactive. Are these guys choosing not to wrestle during the high school season? Is that what you're saying? Or like you kind of have a big list here?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys are in different situations, but it's so many guys that are in the top like one or two that are either hurt or not wrestling, and it just man, it's been a weird thing this year, and it happens every year to a certain extent, but yeah, right now, I mean, so Mason Gibson's injured. Tyler Kasich is now wrestling at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, so he's taking
Oh,
off
really?
his senior year. Yeah,
So he's not wrestling in high school?
right.
It's
Yep.
from the Levi Haynes
Wow.
plan.
He's on the Levi Haynes plan. Meyer Shapiro's on the same plan, except for at Spartan Combat, RTC at Cornell instead of MPA. But he's been out. PJ Duke's hurt. Zach Ryder's hurt. Cody and his brother Kobe Merrill haven't wrestled yet. I think they still may. Christian Carroll's been out.
Christian Carroll hurt or just choosing not to compete like the other guys?
From what I understand, he's not hurt. He's just not competing right now.
Okay.
So that's a lot of very highly ranked, or they're out of the rankings now, but like the best guys. It's an interesting thing. I wonder. I don't know. I don't know exactly what to make of it. Is it a trend? Do you remember a time like this, Ben, where it was this many guys that were out?
Well, obviously, didn't you have like Kyle Snyder, Aaron Brooks, like a few guys like that? They all skipped their senior years. I know there's probably a few more that I'm forgetting about. I mean, it is a funny thing because if you get to that level that those guys are at, and I think some of these guys are maybe close. They're not on the Aaron Brooks, Kyle Snyder level, but they're getting, let's say, relatively close to that level. Like they're really good kids.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a lot of competition on your high school schedule, especially if you're not on a, Blair, Wyoming, Sam, one of those really, really, really good teams. So it is like kind of a little bit, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just for the high school experience and you started high school with these guys and you probably grew up with these guys and you just want to finish with these guys? Versus maybe can I be getting a little better practices? If I go train at a college, I think that's probably the argument. And I said this yesterday, like, I don't know, like, finish your high school experience, and obviously you could probably go train on the side a little bit at whatever college you're at without being there full time. And then, after your high school season, if you want to do virtual and go there full time, I think that's fine. But I would probably lean towards like, hey man, just finish your high school career. Like, you only got one of them. You're almost done. Like that. I mean, like that's kind of like the Thompson thing. Like he's got maybe 6 weeks, but maybe not even 6 weeks till the state tournament. Like,
Yeah.
are you changing high schools with 5 or 6 weeks left in your high school career? Like, it just feels strange.
Yeah. It does feel odd. I mean, I think there is an element of, if we're talking about Braden Thompson specifically, I think there is an element of there's some real excitement around that, not just like being able to train with the RTC once the season's over, but the Stillwater program as an unofficial kind of extension of the college program, because like the level of athletes in that room, it feels like an RTC, a high school aged RTC, probably just going to that Stillwater room. So I don't know. I think that is part of the appeal, is not just like getting to be down there for the 6 weeks, but getting to be around that level of excellence and that level of like
Yeah.
guys that are performing at that kind of level. I know that there are a lot of people locally in Stillwater that care a lot about it, and I think that probably rubs off when those families are having
Yeah.
those conversations.
So, I mean, that's what was then. If you really felt that way, why wouldn't you have moved earlier? Because he moved from he was definitely somewhere else before Lockport, right?
Yeah, he was at Montini, right?
Yeah, he was Montini. Yes, Montini. So, like, why wouldn't you have gone then? Type of thing. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't
Anyways,
know.
I mean, let's not make it about him, because my initial comment was about these seniors leaving their high school programs to go train at an RTC. I don't hate it, but part of me just says like finish your high school career. I mean, I guess maybe they have nobody to practice with and no good coaches. Maybe that's the case. I don't really know for sure. But they must have a decent coach to get them to kind of the level where they are. I
Yeah,
would guess. I'm not
yeah.
certain.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because when kids are considering this, I mean, you brought up Kyle Snyder and Aaron Brooks. Think about Levi Haynes last year, who trained at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, and his progress this year has been good. But obviously, we'll wait and see how his season ends up. But I think if kids are considering it, they don't have to look very far before somebody can make a pretty compelling argument to them that it might be the right thing to do. But you can also
Yeah.
look at most kids who just stick with the normal path, and also,
Yes.
if you look at most of who are all, the 80 All-Americans, probably most of them went the traditional path. So
Yes.
I don't
Agreed.
know, but yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. I hope we see some of these guys return to action. The freestyle season is kind of I think where we're going to see some of these guys again, and that's when they'll be back in the rankings. And I don't know. It just seems like it's kids care about that more right now than maybe they have in the past.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and just this is from what I'm hearing from kids. To me, and I think this is a flow thing, because this wasn't a thing. Maybe a decade ago, it wasn't really a thing. But I think um, the biggest thing from them is making a world team
Hmm.
for sure. And that definitely wasn't the case a while ago.
I feel like that's still just the case for your top, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know,
yeah,
less
I'm
than
saying
ten
the very best
percent
kids,
of
the
yeah,
pinnacle of high
you,
school stuff.
yeah, your top 4% max of high school wrestlers.
Yeah, because like, yeah, what were you thinking about in high school? State titles?
Yeah, I mean,
State
I thought
titles,
about
but
Fargo too.
Fargo,
Fargo was a big
Fargo is the
deal.
big one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Growing up in Iowa, it definitely wasn't world teams. I also knew I'm not making a world team.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like, state title. That was huge. Fargo was like, okay, I can go there, hopefully win a few matches and see some high level competition. But I never, a lot like kids in our area at the time. Like, in Colorado, I think, we would maybe pull, get two or three kids like placing at all in
right.
Fargo at the time. And
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
was like, go, the biggest thing was can you win a state title?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you said
No,
we're not
I
gonna
mean,
see-
sorry, I guess to clarify what I meant there, I meant, you were talking about these guys that are ones and twos sitting out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking about that type of kid because yes, there's going to be
Right.
10 cadet world team members. That's
Right.
pretty few and far between. So, but for those very best, for an Aiden Sinclair, um, or Mitchell Beswick's out of high school, but last year I know that was something he was really thinking about. For King O'Toole, that's what he was really thinking about his senior year.
Yeah, for
So
the
for those
guys
very
that a
best
state
kids,
title is basically a foregone conclusion, just another
yeah, yep,
check the box, go bonus point some guy in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are now have moved on even past Fargo to think about world teams, which is
which I think is
really
a little
cool.
bit. I don't want to say a little bit sad, but um, it's a little bit sad that they overlook something where it's like kind of just enjoy the moment, enjoy what you're in, and I don't take it for granted that you're this good. Go win your high. This is maybe an old fuddy-duddy guy. Go win your high school state title or whatever it is you're doing, and then also do those other things. Don't be like, oh, I'm too good for that. I don't like that type of behavior.
Yeah.
Mitchell actually had a similar viewpoint he was talking about on the Bader show, to where he's like, I try not to look too far ahead in advance, because Bader asked if he thinks about like Olympic cycles, and he goes, I kind of just, hey, I'm Cuba's next. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm training towards that, and then we'll move on from there. He's like, obviously, you dream about and you visualize and you think about those big pinnacle events too, but
Yeah,
when it comes to just training and focusing, that's what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
100%. Because that's
These
I mean,
guys-
that right. That's kind of that mix of the things that are way out there in the future and distant, and the big overarching goal with also the I'm locked in on what's next week or the week after or the week after that, and that this constant you're the whole time you're trying to get better. Like just because the state tournament maybe is not that much of a challenge doesn't mean you can not try to be a better wrestler. Just try to be a better wrestler constantly. And if you keep getting a little bit better and a little bit better all the time, then when you get to those moments where you're doing that really, really big thing, you're going to be prepared for it.
These guys don't know that they're missing out on the opportunity to troll people online and in person like you did, Ben, when you were in high school.
That's funny.
Imagine if you had missed out on that opportunity. Would you have like a briefcase
that was my sophomore year. That was my senior year. My sophomore year was when I started trolling people online though. But yeah, I mean I continued obviously into my senior year.
Glaring lack of message boards for these young guys to go on to.
They don't know about that message boards, but they got social media. It's so much easier.
Yeah, they got it all. Now you said we might not see a lot of these guys until freestyle season, but the remaining 2 months of the high school folk style season, what are you kind of looking forward to the most, and what can we look forward to? What's some events and matches we should tune into?
Okay, well, this weekend is a huge one. Anthony Knox, Mark Anthony McGowan going down at Escape the Rock. That Escape the Rock has a bunch of good ones.
Knox is going up then?
So Knox has been wrestling 120 for the high school season, so that's where he is right now. McGowan's coming down, and actually Blair is kind of shifting down. So Leo DeLuca is going down to 113. And
whoa,
yeah, McGowan's.
Why are they dropping all these guys down a weight? That seems like a lot of weight to cut for those dudes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure why. It might be that a lot of times the tournaments in the second half of the season, you get a couple pounds, and so it makes it a little bit less of a cut. But McGowan was making 26, so if he's now making 22, it's not crazy.
Not that far, but
for DeLuca, it's definitely more of a cut. So I don't know. I don't know how tough that'll be for him. But I'm really excited about that match. That's a match that I think is that's a must-watch match. Everybody's going to want to tune in because it's guys that I don't know that I really thought about that match happening until I saw him in the pre-seeds. Like I just thought, McGowan's been up at 26 and Knox at Super 32 is down at 13. It's like, I don't know, just don't think about it, but
yeah,
I think it's going to.
Now, this is if one of our favorite wrestlers, Zach Jack, doesn't spoil this.
Yeah, good point. We cannot put the cart before the horse because Knox is actually the 3 seed in the tournament because Zach Jackaruso beat him last year at this very tournament. And so don't count out Zach Jackaruso, who is, I believe, a George Mason commit.
Yes, he is.
And so, yeah, Zach Jackaruso, he's a PIAA champ. He's got the title. He's you got to watch him. He's one of those like Musakayev level.
He is the Musakayev of PIAA wrestling.
Yeah.
Wait, which one?
Zach Jackaruso.
No,
You know
it's
him?
that it's the what are the two brothers that one of my guy was wrestling and then both of them were faking injuries on them?
Okay, they got multiple Zach Jacks, or they got multiple
What are those
Musakayevs.
guys'
The
names?
Williams, the
They're
Williams,
skinny and
brothers.
blonde.
The Williams brothers.
Caden and Camden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Very skilled. Not great gas tanks.
Yeah, and Jackaruso
Similar
is
situation.
similar, but he's like Jackaruso's tough because he's pretty tactical with it. He's not just gonna call injury time for like.
I mean, he's beaten Anthony Knox in the past.
That's what I'm saying. He beat him last year. He beat him at this tournament, and so that's going to be a probable semifinal. So I'm not. Yeah, don't count him out. Don't count him out. But you would imagine Knox will have the advantage in the rematch, but he didn't get it done last time. So we'll see. Anyway, I hope we see Knox McGowan and Knox Zach Jack. Those are all great matches. Yeah.
Those are all kind of some names I think we've heard in the past, but who are some guys that have gotten on your radar this first half at the season, whether it be at one of the big tournaments like Iron Man or Powerade or Beast or anything really? Who are some guys that have really made a name for themselves this season so far?
Well, man, Ben's guys keep popping on. They're doing good.
We're trying. Even though we can't travel that much, we're trying.
Yeah. So there's some good guys there for sure. But probably the guy that's had the best year in terms of like kind of coming on. EJ Parco, Kyle Parco's brother. He last year was good in California.
Yeah, I never heard of this guy. What happened? Where did he come from?
Yeah, he hasn't competed a lot on like the national level, but he's wrestling great right now. And 145 is a really weird weight class. That's where he competes. But because there were a couple guys that were, when you think about who's number one, it was Tyler Kasich and Bo Mantanona. And Mantanona's moved up. Kasich is inactive right now. And so it was a weight that was really kind of looking for a number one. Then Maximus Martinez, who's now at Gilroy, used to be St. John Bosco. Yeah. He had not been competing for a while, but he actually went to the P&L event and beat Coy Biskins, who's super good, NC State commit from Minnesota.
That was a good match.
So then Martinez moved up really high, and then Parco beat Martinez at Reno, and that's kind of what popped him on. He just won Doc B as well, so he's been looking really good in California. And he's a junior and went from somebody that probably people were recruiting because his brother's good and he's been good. He's like placed in California, but now he's number one right now, which is a weird thing. It's a bizarre, it's a very weird thing that he's number one.
Hey, so Ryder and Duke, did you say that they're just foregoing to train freestyle? Is that what you said?
No, they're hurt. They're both hurt.
Oh, they're hurt. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Dang.
Yeah, so Parco's been one guy that like he's come on. There's a ton of guys that have done that though. I don't know, Weston Dalton from Colorado, Ty Ice from Colorado. Those two are both really good.
Cannon and
that's quite
Clark had a really good match last week.
Cannon and Block?
At Cheesehead? No, Clark.
Oh yeah. Brandon Cannon.
Grayson, it was like was it 5-4 or 4-3?
Yeah.
So obviously it was at Grayson's home high school, so they made that the last match of the Cheesehead.
Yes.
And it was a good match. Didn't disappoint.
Yeah, Brandon Cannon also. I mean, he's not brand new to people's perception, but he's back, and I think we talked about him after he he's had just an awesome year, but super crazy story. I think people probably are familiar by now, but had a tumor that was like super scary, threatening, and at Iron Man he made it to the finals. He beat Nasir Bailey, Vince Bouzakis, Hunter Mason, all great, and so he climbed way up the rankings. And then that was the question, like Cheesehead, Grayson Clark, it's a top 10 matchup. Like, how's he going to look? And that's great. I'm glad that Brandon Cannon has had those opportunities to kind of to prove himself, because it's a great story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any more high school questions?
Well,
Ben,
one other thing too, that you asked about, like, what should we be looking forward to? We don't know all the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic matchups yet, but that is a great event.
It's a fun event.
And what I really hope we see is, I hope we see a rematch at 170. Who's number one rematch? Rocco Welsh, Josh Barr. I would love to see those guys wrestle again.
But isn't Barr been up at 82 this year?
He has, but I still think they should try to make that match happen.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? I mean, that's the match. If you can get any match, that'd be the one.
Dang, there's like no PA kids ranked at 182. They need to bump Welsh up because their best guy at 182 is number 14 ranked.
Mm-hmm. Pennsylvania goes from, and I don't know what PWC is going to do weight class wise. Last year they used the national weights because it then allows them to get an extra guy in. But for them it goes 172, 189.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
yeah, I think Barr's probably been wrestling up because he's really good and it helps the team also.
Yeah, I bet that's true. Cool.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question about this? This is a small semantics question, but on some people, I'm looking at Andrew Christie, number 14 at 160. You have him listed as the college's Army, but then some places, you have Army West Point. So, I mean, just clarification. They're all
same
going
place.
to Army West. Okay,
that's just
but because they could go military route also, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, that's West Point. That's West Point.
Okay. Yeah. The other because Army West Point kind of has a lot of guys in the rankings that they recruited, so they must be doing a good job. Kevin Ward crushing it up there. The other guy you didn't mention that has not been competing this year is Nate Jezeroga.
Yes, good point. I didn't even put him on the list. Yeah, he hasn't wrestled since who's number one.
Yeah.
So I was really hoping. I mean, obviously people love to watch him compete. He's one of those guys that pretty much only competes at like a championship level, and so it's like if he's in the tournament, there's a pretty good chance he's gonna be in the finals.
Yes.
It would have been awesome. I was as soon as you start looking at the calendar, it's like, man, Cheesehead, you could have had Davino and Jezeroga, which would have been great, but unfortunately,
man, Davino beat down everyone. We had some really good, good for Wisconsin kids.
Yeah.
I think number one ranked and stuff. I don't want to misrepresent what the scores were, so I feel like I should go look at it. But he gave him the business.
That guy, like when he was, U15s and like kind of coming up, you knew he had the pace and the tank and like those things, and he's just seems like he's worked so much on skill development in the last couple of years, but he hasn't lost that like tenacity to score, and he's just he's getting really good.
Yeah, he beat a really good kid from Wisconsin, 25-10 in the semis, and then Logan Swenson beat Thomas Verrett, who I know people think highly of. And then he beat him 10-3 in the finals.
Yeah, that's good.
So he was pretty impressive.
He's had some great opponents this year too, and he just has kept winning. Because he beat McGowan twice, he beat Max Gallagher, beat Logan Frazier. All those were at Ironman. Beat Mason Gibson, Braden Davis. I mean, he's had like plenty of tests, and he's been passing them all.
Yes. Yeah, pretty impressive.
All right. 9:04. We've got a bunch of questions, so
baby.
Question Super Show.
Let's start with some voicemails. I actually don't remember exactly what all these were asked. I put these in a while ago. So let's just start with CJ from Indiana. Tyler.
Hey, CJ from Indiana. I know you guys were looking for hot takes. Well, I assume you still are. First thing is I think high school folk style should have college out of bounds and the neutral danger zone. And I'm curious what Ben thinks about that. And second hot take is that we could do a dual team champion and a tournament team champion if the NCAA stopped wasting money on things like the Johnson & Johnson Talcum Powder Bowl and the Louisiana Pig Roast Bowl. We have umpteen bowl games that no one watches, but we can't do a dual team champion and a tournament team champion. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Well, I hold on. So I feel like they do all these stupid bowls because they make money, but I don't know football. So you guys maybe tell me if I'm wrong there.
They'll have sponsors that pay for the bowl. The NCAA isn't paying.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people watch these bowls,
Yeah.
especially compared to wrestling events.
Yeah, I think that's that part. Unfortunately, CJ, he's missing the point that like
Also, the NCAA
Johnson and Johnson Bowl. That's Johnson and Johnson money being infused into those programs in the NCAA. Now, what he needs to do is he needs to embezzle that Johnson and Johnson money, pay for a wrestling championship.
Get in with Big
wrestling.
Pharma.
Yeah.
The Johnson and Johnson dual tournament championship. Also, like we said yesterday,
can we get a more non-evil company to be the champion championships?
Money's money.
Maybe this is their first step towards being a good company. I don't know.
Also, like we said yesterday, it's not the NCAA that decides this. It's the coaches have voted.
Mm-hmm.
Make the vote. No one at the NCAA is like NCAA. I don't even know. NCAA committee is going, wow, we really should not have a dual championship. They're not even thinking about wrestling. I hate to break it.
Yeah.
To everybody.
Yeah.
But what do you think about I think everybody agrees
any
college
tournament
out of bounds.
I participate in or run, I try to make it college out of bounds. It's so much better. High school out of bounds are so dumb.
It's just because they have little
College out of
mats,
bounds,
little bitty mats.
Yeah, but usually they don't for the most important matches. Like, yeah, they may have small mats for tournaments, and maybe they don't have enough space in between. And then like you could just tell your refs to use their discretion and make an announcement to the athletes that day that, hey, some of this stuff, if you're getting close to another set of wrestlers, we may stop the action. I'm sorry, that's just part of it, and that's fine. But yeah, I mean the most important tournaments, like their state tournament or their whatever, like their mats are plenty big. They're the same. I mean they're the same basic mats that you're gonna use on a college. I don't know, maybe not exactly, but pretty close. And so I don't think it's that hard to change it.
I mean, I think the reason it is that way is because of smaller mats, and it becomes a quote safety issue unquote with kids going on the hard floor, and you can't just tell every high school in the country to, hey, get new mats. New mats are expensive, especially for smaller high schools. So I think that's by and large where the issue lies, and you want to have a set standard of rules.
Yeah. The neutral danger piece that he brought up, like
I don't know about
that one is
so
easier
hard
to implement.
Well, a lot of the
but it's so hard because you got to have really good high level referees.
That's
and
the
it's
problem.
Tricky and
that's the
explain
problem
to the kids who are new to wrestling. I don't know.
If you could get that rule like to happen and happen in the best way, and you had all the right refs and everything like that, I think it would be great because some high school scramblers completely like wrestle differently than they're going to eventually have to in college because there's no neutral danger, and they're totally cool chilling on their backs for forever. So
I don't think, I think what we've seen, I'm going to kind of disagree a little bit because I think what we've seen with neutral danger is we haven't seen that much. It's not hard like when you're in a crotch lock, just roll your shoulder over a little more so you're not past 90 or a few of these other positions. Every once in a while you see it, but it's not like, I think some people thought it was going to be on every scramble, right? And that's just not the case. It's once in a while that it's effective, but it's not like every single time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not every time, but it happens. Like
it happens
enough in high enough profile matches at the high school level that you're like, man, that's just not gonna pay off for you in the long run.
Yeah, I don't feel like it'd be a total change in the style, just a small adjustment.
Tyler's putting some info right now. Just for the fact, the 2021 Myrtle Beach Bowl, the lowest ranked bowl of the season, it was Old Dominion versus Tulsa, had 990,000 viewers. That is quite a bit higher than the highest NCAA wrestling championships.
Yeah, actually, just Nomad actually sent me on Twitter because I'm on Duels. The Penn State, Iowa, I think got 370,000 viewers on Big Ten Network.
Yeah, so that would be 2x almost.
Son of a gun.
Dare to dream. We may one day
Or
reach
3X,
we
I
may
guess.
one day reach Myrtle Beach Bull status.
Damn it all.
And then you get Big Pharma coming in to give you the big money.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't want their damn money.
Let's take Myrtle Beach's money. That's fine.
I'll take that. We'll take Myrtle Beach's money. Seems like a nice place. Nice people.
All right. Rocks from Dallas has a suggestion for Spencer Lee.
What's up, Flo fam? It's Hawks on the Rocks from Dallas. Got a question for you. After the weekend, we've got so many nice guys in college wrestling. What would it hurt if we turned Spencer Lee heel? And y'all know I'm a Hawkeye.
I'm in on it.
RBY, everyone loves. Yanni, everyone loves. Keegan O'Toole, babyface, everyone loves them. We need a good bad guy. Srirachi kind of gets it done, but not really. Why not make Spencer Lee the new Brett Metcalf, make him the most hated man walking in the NCAAs as he walks away with his fourth NCAA title? Just your thoughts. Love you guys. Later.
I like it. We
Spencer
got
Lee
WWE
heel?
fan in the house. You know what? I'm gonna go a step further. If I was writing the scripts, I would make a D Generation X of college wrestlers, and we'd just make a team of bad guys and that people could cheer against. It would be
They
awesome.
just tell everybody to suck it constantly.
Yeah, I think you go Starocki, and then because everyone hates Penn State a little bit, so you need Starocki, maybe get Kirkfleet in there, and then you throw Spencer Lee in the mix too, and then it's like, whoa, we got Iowa and Penn State guys. What's going on here? I'm not really sure. And then I don't know who the fourth member is going to be. I got 3 of the 4. It's going to be awesome. Who should our fourth member of D Generation X be?
Let's see. I think we get Austin Gomez in the mix, maybe.
Oh, that'd be good. I think he'd be good
He
on there.
kind of likes to play
Nice.
the crowd
Yeah.
a bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Give me Gomez.
Or you go those 3, and then all of a sudden, add it would have to be, I guess, Big Ten.
Oh, Gable.
By God, that's Gable Stevenson's music.
Oh yeah, there we go. Gable Stevens' music comes on.
And you start
I
the Stone
love it.
Cold music, and he comes out.
Yeah.
Wow. What would Spencer even have to do to be considered a heel? I feel like he's so far off. He's too nice.
No,
talked
just
about
be
it
a
the
few.
other day.
Dude, you just gotta say a couple things. It ain't that
Especially
hard.
in an Iowa singlet.
Yeah, cut a promo.
They
Boom,
are
it's
so
over.
decisive. It's they have so many just diehard fans who will love them no matter what and go crazy for them. But if you're not on that end,
Yeah.
all the other fans pretty much hate them.
Man, I'll never
Yeah.
forget 2010 NCAAs when Iowa had such a good team. That's what it was like. It was like
Oh, I
were
was gonna
the-
say when I thought you were saying when Metcalf pushed Caldwell and everyone went nuts.
well, that was
That was 2010 or was it 2011?
I
No,
think it was
2009. That was 9.
2009.
Yes.
Yeah, Metcalf beat Lance Palmer in 2010. But
Yeah.
but it was it was in Omaha, so it was plenty close to Iowa fans, and it was like either you were for Iowa or you were against Iowa. That was the whole thing. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like
I
dual
feel like
atmosphere.
It was.
I feel like Starocki wants to be a bad guy already. So that'd be easy one.
Let him do it. Yeah,
Yep.
that's great. I mean, I don't know. Mesenbrink is talking about the people he wants to crush.
He could definitely be a bad guy. We've worked on his temper during matches.
Really?
Much better. Oh yeah.
Dude, I want to see him become a bad guy.
I'll talk to him, see if he can be a bad guy.
Yeah. He said that it's been an interesting process because he's not in the portal yet, so he has to wait, but everybody wants to talk. They can't talk to him,
Yeah,
so they're
well, that's the whole point is that we didn't want we didn't want him to have to deal with it for months, right? Because if he would have transferred at semester, he wouldn't be eligible till next year. So kind of what's the point a little
Right.
bit? And then you also have to rush your decision and you can't really take your time and do visits and talk to people. But if you do it right now, it's like, okay, well, you have a couple months till you can really even make a real decision. So now you got to do all, college coaches are going to be calling every single week, right? And you got to deal with that shit. So it's like, okay, let's just put this off for a while so they can't even call you. And then, when you're ready to do this thing, then you can go do this thing and then get it done.
But the loophole, it sounds like, from the show is everyone's calling everyone around him, which is fine. That's not, there's nothing, nobody's breaking any rules doing that. And then he's like playing telephone. What's that? I mean, I'm sure you're involved
No,
in some
not
of that.
real.
Like,
I mean, I've told them all he'll talk to you guys in March. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll have him call you when he decides to go in the portal. Let him call you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I think you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm saying about like, and this is one of the things where high school kids get a little bit overwhelmed. And honestly, I pushed them like a Sinclair. I pushed him to make a decision because if a college coach is recruiting you, they feel obligated to call you every single week.
Yep.
Right. And if you have 5 or 6 or 7 coaches calling you every single week and they want to talk to you and they want to make you feel special, you're spending hours every week on the phone.
Yep.
And it's like, no, you already talked to these guys 10 times. Like, probably more than that, right? Because they can start calling after your sophomore year.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to your junior fall, I mean, that's been a year,
Yeah.
right? So you've probably talked. 10 is probably a significant underestimate of how many times that they've talked to these college coaches on the phone. And then the college coaches can text them all the time. It's just like, dude, it's too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
When March gets here, how do you think he's going to approach that process? Like,
you know what? I was actually I just thought about it now because I think it's like March 9, but then that's obviously a terrible time for the college coaches because they're prepping for the NCAAs, you know. And then after that, he's not going to want to do any visits because he's going to have the U.S. Open coming up at the end of March. At the end of April will be the U.S. Open for him, so he's not really going to want to take visits in April. I don't know. We'll have to make a plan.
I'll be curious.
We'll be following. Let's get to
Oh, wait, hold on. You know who the chat is killing it? You know who the ultimate D-Generation X character would be? Oh, you already know.
Oh, AJ.
AJ Ferrari's music comes on.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ultimate.
Yeah, no question. That was too easy.
Yeah.
That was too easy. How do we not think of that one? I guess because he's not actually wrestling.
And then he comes back. He makes his appearance in a Hawkeye singlet.
Oh my god.
Then really a lot of people would hate him.
Could you imagine?
That would be wild. Could you? Yeah. I mean, they need him at I guess. Well, Warner's struggling a little bit, but they kind of have a good 184 or 197, so they don't need him there necessarily.
Mm-hmm. After this year, maybe.
Yeah. Definitely possible.
All right, let's get to Smiley's voicemail.
JD, Ben, CP, maybe Shane. I don't know if you're there. David Bray. Smiley from Stevens Point. I got a question, comment, concern. I don't know what it is. All right. I see a lot of people complain about stall calls on leg riders, whether it be with 2 boots in or figure 4. Whatever it may be, someone's commenting on the scuffle about it. I don't want to hear it. All right, so hear me out. If someone gets to the point where they've got 2 boots in on top and the bottom guy has his elbows against his rib cage, his hands next to his ears, and he's balling up, how is that the top man's fault that the position isn't getting any further? Isn't the onus supposed to be on the bottom man to score? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. If you're not actively working to score from top, say you've just got a power half, you're hanging on it or whatever it might be, I get that. Maybe reset it or even hit the top man for stalling, especially if it's happened a couple times. But if you get the 2 boots in and the bottom guy's just going to ball up and you want to hit the top man
This goes
for
on for
stalling
like 2
while he's
minutes,
ripping
so
on
I
his
think
shoulder.
we get the gist of it.
Stevens Point is Wisconsin, nice Wisconsin guy.
I think this is kind of the like you were talking about the other day with the stalemate stall call.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. Because I mean, if the bottom guy is actually doing what he was describing, it does seem as the bottom guy would most likely get called for stalling. At least in the wrestling I'm watching, if the bottom guy's doing this, they're probably getting called for stalling.
Yeah, you can't turtle.
Yeah.
You at least got to build up to a base.
Yeah. So I don't know what Smiley's talking about, but yeah, I mean, I think the situation we described the other day, it is kind of a tough one, and I think what we said would be a good solution to that.
We had an issue actually with the voicemail. I'm trying to get it fixed. We might not have voicemails for a while, but the last one I listened to, I wasn't able to transfer it over. I don't remember who it was that called in. It was a good voicemail, but they said they had to take that Ohio State is the worst team in the country at developing talent. They get all these big recruits, but they don't develop them. They don't get production out of them. But I wanted to push back on it, because that's just not true. So
I want the quant division. I want the quant division to get on this, JD. I think this is so simple. Can you just help me with this, JD, real quick?
Okay.
Okay, it's really
Explain it.
simple. You guys have either a top 100 or top 150 recruits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not in that, then you can label them as 151 or whatever, right? A number below that. Okay, so you have a point value for the recruiting class, all right, where the people are starting going into the college. And then 5 years later, you can then re-rank all the people based on their NCAA placements, or I mean, probably total NCAA team points score to be the most easy and fair way to do it.
Yep.
And then you just see what happened. Like, did they go up? Did they go down? Are they always up? Are they always down? Are they just somewhere in the middle, like by chance? Like, where are we at?
I think it would be like ideal to have a metric that included NCAA team points, but that also factored in like number of dual meets, like number of like dual meet points contributed during their career, number of dual meets started during their
total
career.
wins, maybe, or something like that.
Total wins, but I do think like the dual meet component matters. Like there's going to be guys that get a lot of wins that don't start that much. Like
sure, open tournaments or whatever. Really,
yeah.
I don't know, Bray. I feel like by you say maybe your first year or two, but by the time you're like in year 3, 4, 5, if you're not a starter and you're older, you're not going to tons of open tournaments.
Well, yeah, true. But I mean, I think like I don't know. There's a like Colin Shriver is not really the starter, but like he still does have a value that's different than other backups at other programs or even other backups at Iowa. Like there is a value there, and so what?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that should be like ideally it'd be great to have that, you know. But if he was just winning matches at Opens, or if he was, you know, going to Midlands and winning matches, it's still not really adding value. Like what you want out of a recruit is that they're winning and scoring points for your team, and that can be both in a duel or
but now you're talking
about
value to the team versus just like how skillful is that athlete, right? Because if you have a ranking of how skillful they are outcome out of high school, and you know you're saying I think if you have say two guys in a bracket placing at Midlands, I think that is a good reflection on your team, right? So I think it does add some team value, and it shows us, well, hey, you're actually really good. There's just a starter who's a little bit better than you. Yeah. But if you did have the opportunity to start, you would probably do pretty well.
I think when you're thinking about a big board, you're not trying to just evaluate the skillfulness of the athletes on that list. You're trying to think about the value they are going to add to the team and the points they're going to score for the team and the ways that they're going to make that team help that team accomplish its goals of winning and stuff. So because like if you let's say you had, you know, the 1 and 2 in the country on the big board were both heavyweights and they both were at the same team and one of them started and the other one didn't, like even if number 2 got just as skillful and just was still the second most skillful athlete, you would still think that recruit was, I don't know, didn't have the value, right?
But I mean to get back to the original question was how much do they develop them? Okay.
Yeah,
and so if you start at X point, right? If you start at 54, and this is where it's like if they're a backup, they're probably actually not going to get that high, even if they're really good. But I'm sure there's some type of backup situation. I'm trying to rack my brain thing out. Like I'm kind of thinking of Shakur and Kassar, but they obviously both started where the backup never ever gets a start, but then maybe he transfers and does really well somewhere else. I mean, a situation for us at Missouri would have been Suriano and Woodley. And Suriano is the head coach at Cal Poly now. It was like he had All-American Burleson, Woodley, and Akren in front of him, and he couldn't start, and then he transferred somewhere else, and he was an All-American there. So, like, his last year. So he actually did develop well at Missouri.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to crack the starting lineup, and then did well at the end, you know? That type of
good
thing.
point. Good point. I mean, like a Berglund or, you know, guys like that. Yeah. There's a lot of development happening. That is a little bit harder to measure, but okay, so maybe, all right. So, maybe it is about total match wins.
You guys, get some smart guys, sit down and just kind of hash it out for an hour or two, and come up with the criteria, and then it should be almost all a numbers game at that point. And I think you could kind of come up with a solution I don't want to say relatively easy, but I definitely think you could come up with a solution. From Ohio State standpoint, they definitely get a lot of really high level recruits. I mean, and I don't know why they haven't fixed this, because it does seem like people have been kind of crapping on them about it forever. But some of their dudes do stink on bottom, and they always stink on bottom, and they never get better. Not all of their guys, but some of their guys they're just not good down there. But it does feel like they've had a lot of guys like Ethan Smith. I know he was good, but until he was great. And same with the Caleb Romero, and they're having a lot of college success, and they weren't. I don't think they were number ones. Don't maybe
They
correct me if
were
I'm
both
wrong on
top
this.
50 on the big board.
Okay, so they were really good.
But they're getting a lot of production out of them. So I went
Yes,
back and
they
kind of
are.
looked at some of their best recruits from the past decade, like each year. 2013, Nato and Bo Jordan, both great, obviously. 14, Kyle Snyder, Micah Jordan, and Thomas Haynes. Thomas Haynes didn't really pan out, but you got more than enough production from the other
Yeah,
two
I mean
guys.
that one class, that 3 class was so insane.
2015, two best, Miles Martin and Keyshawn Hayes. Didn't get, obviously, probably what they were looking at Keyshawn Hayes, but you got a champ, multiple-time finalist in Miles Martin. 2016, Luke Pletcher and Isaiah White. Isaiah White didn't end up working out for him, but Luke
Isaiah
Pletcher.
White went to. I didn't realize he committed there. Wow.
2017.
But he never went there, right? Because he went to. Did he end up
He
at
ended up at Notre Dame,
Notre Dame first,
and then Nebraska.
I don't. Yeah. So.
Yes, I don't even know if you can count him, because I'm
Yeah.
not sure if he ever even made it on campus. 2017, Chase Singletary was in there as well with Caleb Romero and Ethan Smith, and he even made the round of 12, and then he's had some bad injuries. That's another thing that would be hard to factor into, and I don't know how much you would ding a program or an individual for injuries, like a guy like Hunter Stieber or Singletary that showed they might have been good, but just could not stay healthy. And is that
I
a
feel like
program's
that's a
fault?
skill too, isn't it?
The best ability is availability.
Yeah, for real. I mean, like Penn State, for example, has done such a good job at keeping their guys healthy, and I think there's absolutely value in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that kind of shows right there that Ohio State is by far not the worst program in the country at developing talent. They do just fine.
But I agree that it would be really cool to get some kind of metric and
Yes, it would be
measure
awesome.
Okay, let's get to some emails before we get to Twitter questions. We haven't done emails in a while. From Tad in Ohio. That Hasselrig story is amazing. 3-time D2 champ, 3-time D1 champ. What do you guys think about bringing back D2 champ, getting AQ into the D1 championship tourney? I personally do not care. And I'm even a D2
the
guy.
Hasselrig thing is freaking awesome. It's so impressive.
It's cool.
I think it'd be cool, but I'm already trying to cut out one qualifier because I think 33 is stupid.
I
32 is
agree.
much better.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be mad if it went down to something like 24.
Yeah.
Which it might. It might go down. Speaking of which, reminding the NCAA Winter Transformation Committee or whatever is meeting as we speak, and they've got some pretty big changes coming. They've already announced. I don't want to talk too much on it until I've had some more time to really read up about it. And I know there's still a couple more days of meetings, but there could be some decently big changes coming to wrestling.
Wait, what? Tell
in the
us.
next
Tell us
couple
more,
of years.
JD.
I know. I think they announced volunteer coaching might not be a position anymore.
Wow. Okay.
There could be an effect on scholarships, potentially like no partial scholarships.
In wrestling?
Potentially. Like I said,
Ooh,
I don't want to get
that
too
would
much
be
into it until I've had more time to really
dreadful.
read up on it and they finish these meetings, which go the next couple days. And I know they were looking at maybe cutting back on the number of participants per total for like national qualifying per percentage per total participant. And right now wrestling is super high with 33 of the total compared to
You mean of the total
sports.
participants who participate
Of
in
total teams, yes,
the
33 get in.
conference championships?
Yes.
Got it.
So
Wow.
my stance on the whole lower level guys getting into the D1 tourney, sure, it's cool if it happens, but at the same time, it's like if you want to win a D1 title, go wrestle
Go
D1.
D1.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the other thing I would say is like, be happy with what you're winning. Like,
Yes.
if you chose to go D2 and you're winning the pinnacle of what Division 2 is, that's freaking awesome. Congratulations. Be happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there like, how often, like the Hasselrig thing is cool. How often would there?
What was that? The 70s or 80s?
Probably.
And people love to quote that as an example. I'm like,
yeah. Like, how often would there be a story that, like, from somebody that came from another division that would make it like worth it? Like, what would the lift be to wrestling overall and the eyeballs that it would add to the sport? Probably not very much, I don't think.
It would provide some cool individual stories, which is why if it were to have, not necessarily against it, but
yeah, like, do I care if it's the number 1 D2 and the number 1 D3 instead of the number 33 and 32 D1? Like, I don't care. Sure, whatever.
Correct.
Who would you rather have? Like, I don't. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's just not a topic I feel passionately about because those guys have pinnacles currently. And
yes, and I mean, and I guess the other
thing
to even add on to that is, if they want to, they can go test themselves in the spring at the U.S. Open or
they can go to CKLV,
and certain guys do.
Yeah,
CKLV, yeah,
they can go to CKLV in Midlands. You can get you can basically wrestle Division 1 type schedule at a Division 2 and Division 3s. We just saw that the Whitewater guy make the finals in Midlands. So
here at Shinoster,
yep. So that's cool. This guy asked for Tiebreaker 3, Ultimate Tiebreaker Readout. Would you rather take bottom as the traditional choice of strategy, or would you rather take top now that the double thigh pie is a trusted rideout position?
Man, that's a dumb question. It's all based on the match. What happened? Did you guys both get away from each other? And the other one, did you both get ridden out? Did you get ridden out a lot in the third period? Like, man, if you get ridden, don't choose bottom. Simple. If you've been riding them, obviously, and if the riding time is tied, you've likely been riding them or not riding them. You should know what you want.
Right.
I would choose top and pin them.
There you go. Team points. Smart.
Yeah, I'd be thinking about the team. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you really were thinking about team, you would reversal to the back and pin to get those extra match points as well.
That's true. Good point.
Oh
Maybe I cut him a couple times and then pin him.
From Jackson, do you agree that there's an obvious bias for officials to favor Big Ten wrestlers in matchups against wrestlers from other conferences? Based on sheer numbers, there are far more officials out of Big Ten geography than anywhere else, which could explain why they would lean that way. Do you think the officiating will begin to sway non-Big Ten coaches away from traveling to tournaments like Midland Soldier Salute? For the record, I love Soldier Salute tournament and hope it continues every year. I think Midlands has lost a little bit less from
Did someone actually say they love the Soldier Salute? Did that just happen?
Yes.
Why would they love the Soldier Salute?
Maybe they're a big Iowa fan.
Bro, it's terrible. I mean, honestly, I saw what I said about the scalpel yesterday, where it sucked because there wasn't that many super interesting matches because a lot of teams didn't participate. We need to make more. We need to make a season where more the best guys participate. Can be said fivefold over. I looked at the Soldiers Scuffle brackets and I was like, "Oh, what good matches am I going to watch here?" Like, I don't know. Like, I love watching wrestling. I love flipping a tournament on. There wasn't very many matches that were worth watching that tournament. I guess they just liked it because Iowa won everything. Is that why they liked it?
Probably, yeah. I don't know. Maybe they're
weird.
A big Spencer Lee fan.
That's weird.
I
don't know.
Maybe they live in Coralville, so they got to watch it live. I don't know. But I do not personally think that there's a bias in officiating, not that I've noticed. You could maybe say to specific coaches that have, a large presence could weigh on officials more, but to a conference, because they're from a certain place, I do not think so.
Yeah, like the idea that there are more officials from Big Ten geography than anywhere else is like, well, Big Ten geography is also other conference geography. Like, Iowa is Big Ten and Big 12, and there's more Big 12 than there is Big 10. At one point, it was
also MAC.
Yeah, and yeah, like Pennsylvania, there's Big 10, but there's MAC schools, EIWA schools. It's just like, I just think it's a kind of a false premise. And I heard some like complaints about this. I can't remember what event it was, that there was some kind of bias, like Maybe it was Soldier Salute, a bias towards Iowa or something like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know if there's
Well,
any.
the thing
If,
the thing that's already been proven that is that fact is, and they did this with football, is that the officials do officiate to appease the coaching staff. So I
Sure.
don't maybe I saw this in football, but I don't watch a lot of football anymore. But coaches and team can only go within a certain parameter, correct?
Right.
I think so.
It's like 30-yard line to 30-yard line or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Somewhere in there. So they literally looked at the calls, and when the official was standing within that zone where the team was, they were way more likely to make a favorable call for that team. And when the referee got outside of that box, then they were way more even-handed between both teams.
Coach chirping in your ear.
Yeah, that's exact. I mean, that was proven.
That makes sense to me. Or the fact that like
I said, coach
could
with a
get-
big presence.
Sure. I mean, the fact that you can get overwhelmed by a crowd or something like that, I can see. But that you're like, oh, this is a Big Ten situation. Like, I don't know. Maybe, but if it is, I don't think it's because of the geography thing, because it doesn't
No.
make sense. I don't think so.
All right, let's get to some Twitter questions from Jesse's Wrestling Show. Get rid of writing time, but add 1 point for 1 second near fall. I'm in.
Yeah.
No,
I think it's
You
kinda
like
cool.
it?
I mean, you exposed, you put their shoulder blades on the mat. You didn't hold them there. I guess you had to hold them there for 1 second, so it couldn't be
1
like
second.
a real cheap tilt.
So then, do you
situation.
want 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then with a maximum of 4? Is that what you want then? Because that's
Sure.
right.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I mean, it does
Rather
make
than
sense.
2 and
Obviously,
4.
it adds significantly more scoring sequences that you would need, right? You have 4 scoring sequences rather than 2.
It would definitely incentivize more risk.
Yeah, because obviously, if you could get so from a reversal standpoint, right? So if you were able to expose for one second and you got 1 point, and they gave a reversal and they got an escape, it's right. It's a null sequence. It's 2 points for each person, right? And so you would take that risk because if you could get the 2 second hold or the 3 second hold, that you would come out on top of that sequence.
Actually, wrestling fan producer Tyler brings up a good point. You going to trust refs to count 1 second? How many times do we not count them for like a 2 count, and it was like you weren't there fast enough? 1 count.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing right there is how fast
You're gonna have
they
to start
get
counting
there.
out of position just standing up.
Yes, because sometimes they're not in the right spot, and sometimes the people start faster or slower or whatever, and that.
Or like think about
If
like
you
a
don't-
throw to your back situation where a guy kind of rolls through the position, but it's like,
Yes.
do you get 3 points there?
Yeah.
Or like how fast do you go? 2, 1, okay, off. Or do you go like
And then
immediately?
you have to. I mean, a takedown situation, you would have to award control and then start counting.
Yeah. It would be tricky. Maybe not. So maybe we
Yeah.
just stick with 2. From Grapenut 1970.
Wow.
Not sure Insta-Death will ever get traction, but I heard a new twist for writing time. What if after a minute of writing time, the top guy gets 1 point, then both guys are put back in neutral? Bottom doesn't get an escape point, then writing time starts over again.
I don't hate it. The only thing that would be stupid here would be it is it's affected by choice of period, right? Because say you got takedown, you're up to 40, and then you choose top to get this sequence because you get a point plus kind of they don't get the escape, whereas if you didn't get choice, the flip goes to the person, you're not going to get that thing. And I think things that are affected by the choice like that are kind of dumb because the other person should have some opportunity to bring down your ride time or something like that.
Mm-hmm. This one's from Joseph Floyd.
I got a second. I thought you were. I was waiting for a pushback, but I do have a second point on that.
Okay.
Am I good to go?
Yeah.
You're good to go.
I think if there was something where after 1 minute of being on top consecutively, so within you take them down or you start on top and you're on top for 1 minute consecutively, not over multiple periods. If at that point you got the option to get your point and then let them go without a point, I think that could work.
That's Andrew Spay's rule he wants to see, where actually anytime two guys go out of bounds, he wants bottom guy to have the option to go on your
Bottom
feet.
guy?
Bottom guy, but you don't get your point for an escape.
Okay.
Let's say
I like that. So I hate it when they say the top guy because then geography matters, right? If you're lucky enough to get a takedown on the edge, then you get a 2-point takedown versus if you're in the center, it's a 1 point because 2-point takedown, 1 point escape.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the bottom person's choice, I kind of like that. But then you also, if one guy is particularly good on top, you take away his reward for getting the takedown and getting on top.
True. And it would also come into play like when they go out of bounds with, I don't know, like
Yes. That
30
actually
seconds left.
don't you hold this happened. Do you remember this? This was I think Jaden Cox actually lost a match in an all-star classic because they were trying some rule switch like this. And the guy I think I might mess this up, but I'm close. The guy got the takedown. And as they were going out of bounds, and the rule was they could let him go without a penalty, and so he let him. And there was a few seconds left where Jaden Cox really got ridden, so he likely would have gotten an escape to tie the match, but he couldn't get the escape because the guy let him go. It was something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah. What if the bottom guy could just choose neutral at any time and get no point, or they could work for the escape?
But then that's like then it's like, okay, but if you suck on bottom and you're lucky enough to go out of bounds, then the top guy doesn't get his opportunity on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not ideal. So I mean, if you did the 1 minute thing, the 1 minute consecutively, then you would. I mean, you obviously the bottom person and the top person would have both had the opportunity, and the top person can continue to ride if they so choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be okay. I don't know. I do think
It's fine. It's also kind of fine the way
I'm
it
watching
is.
it now. Scott Schiller took Jaden out of bounds, and then
Scott Schiller,
he got
that's
the
who it was,
choice. He got the choice, and he took neutral, denying Jaden of the opportunity to get his escape point, and Jaden was not able to take him down.
See, I was right on that. I was worried I was wrong, but I actually nailed it.
Nice work.
Yes.
All right, back to our questions. Back to Joe Floyd, aka @DadBod for life.
Okay.
You've compared athletes to their coaches in the past. Who does Ben think resembles his wrestling style the best?
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my thing was, so actually, because Mitchell said this also, is I tried to steal from everybody. Like I tried, and there wasn't access like there is today to information. So I watched a bunch of Dave Schultz, right? That was the guy I watched a lot of because people said, from athleticism standpoint was really similar. But then beyond that, I feel like at that time it was just watching my peers and what they were doing and trying to notice when there was things that they did that I liked that I could incorporate into my style, is what I would say.
There you go. All right, we're running out of time. We only got time for a couple more. We had a couple people ask about Sammy Alvarez leaving Rutgers, and then Dean said, Sammy Alvarez transfers to Oklahoma State. Could John Smith get him back down to 133? I wouldn't rule it out. But yes, Sammy officially in the transfer portal, leaving Rutgers. I wish him nothing but the best. He had a very good season 3 years ago in 2020. And if he can get back to that level, he can really make a difference at a program somewhere.
Yeah.
Last one. This one's from Tyler. We only got 60 seconds to talk about it. Would you rather be trapped in a mall for 24 hours with a silverback gorilla or 5 black mamba snakes?
In a mall?
Seems like you could get away from the black mamba snakes easier. Although
I'm
are
going
gorillas
gorilla.
really aggressive? Like, do any of these people actually want to get you? Like, can you teach them to try to attack or what?
They're all semi-aggressive.
for you.
They're coming for you, Tyler says.
They're half pissed off.
Half pissed off, yeah. They've been hanging out. They've just been booted from Stillwater.
Oh man.
I can't see a black mamba though, and I'm assuming this is like kind of a dimly lit situation. You can always basically hear the gorilla coming.
Yeah. I'm
I gotta
gonna
go
evade
gorilla.
I'm gonna evade the gorilla. I'm gonna hide in the
Gorillas get tired. too.
Really? Snakes are slow, bro.
Nah,
I don't
snakes are
know.
fast.
Well, they
There's
aren't.
5 of them.
Black
Snakes are
mamba
not
top
fast. Take that back.
speed.
Snakes
5
can
of
get
them.
in the vent system, and you
12
don't know
miles
where
per
they're
hour.
at.
You've been watching too many Samuel Jackson movies, Tyler.
12 miles per hour is like.
You haven't been watching enough.
It's a decent clip.
Snakes can
that?
move 12 miles an hour with my butt.
Take it up with Google, dude.
Yeah.
National Geographic, 12.5 miles per hour.
Dude, remember that video a while back of the lizard running away
Running.
from all the snakes, and they're all just like, they're going at him,
Yeah,
It's a
dude.
great
that was
video.
wild.
Yeah,
I'm going gorilla.
Yeah, I'm hiding in the circular
I
rack
think
of
I could
clothes,
kill the
just getting
snakes
in there.
too if I really had
Black
to. I think I
mambas,
could
dude. You
kill
cannot kill a black mamba.
You could probably
them.
kill
Well, why
one.
can't I?
Yeah,
It's
you could.
gonna bite you in the process.
Just cut his head off.
And all it needs is one bite.
Stop.
I mean, I'm going in an elevator.
You sound ridiculous.
I'm going in the
You
elevator
realize
hoping they don't figure out. You know what? You get in the elevator, snakes got no chance. What are they gonna do?
No, you have a better
Dang.
chance than a gorilla. With snakes
Yeah,
can like
lock
somehow get
yourself in
into
an
that
elevator.
elevator. I don't know how.
No, stop.
A
You're being
gorilla,
ridiculous.
They can't
JD.
push a
You're
button. The
being
gorilla
ridiculous.
just goes ding.
They don't need to push a button. They can slither in things.
There.
I'm leaving. JD's being ridiculous.
Yeah.
You guys have
Y'all
a
are
great weekend.
ridiculous. If I'm dying a slow death after you get bit, I'm just gonna get pounded to death.
Good thing I have the anti-venom.
Oh,
You're just gonna pee on it.
yeah.
All right, that's it. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's show, and tune in to the duel Friday night. It's gonna be awesome on FloWrestling.org. Princeton versus Oregon State. A bunch of other good wrestling this weekend to watch, and we're gonna discuss it all Monday morning. See you then.